I know every year we see the same videos, iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 15 Pro Max, don't make a mistake. And they usually get made pretty much right at launch, so I always wonder how the heck people are able to make these determinations so soon. It's now been about 3 months since the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Maxes came out, and I've had the opportunity to use both of these phones individually for a month and a half each, so I'll give you my true and honest thoughts as to which one you should grab this year. The reason why this question's a little bit different this year is because there are actually some things that these two phones don't share in common other than screen size. And as a quick aside, if you're also struggling which color to get, the white is the best color this year by far. So 15 Pro versus 15 Pro Max, which one should you grab this year? Let's get into it. We already know the 15 Pro is $999 while the 15 Pro Max is $1199. So let's take a look at the 3 reasons why people would choose either one of these phones and determine which one is actually best for you. So starting with the reason why most people lean towards the iPhone 15 Pro Max is that increased screen size. It's always nice to have that extra screen real estate when you're watching movies on Netflix or scrolling through TikTok, looking at pictures on Instagram, whatever have you, but the extra size does make it a little bit more cumbersome. That being said though, this year's version of the 15 Pro Max is easily the most comfortable that Apple has ever created. It doesn't seem like much, but the 90-degree edges on the older phones really weren't that comfortable to hold, especially for somebody that doesn't like to use a case. And if you're someone like me who has very large hands, you're probably gonna think that this would be the perfect phone to grab. However, even in saying all that, there's definitely something to be said about just how comfortable the 15 Pro is in your hands, especially with those rounded edges as well. I feel like this phone is almost perfect to hold now. Now going back to that 15 Pro Max, again, it is nice to have that extra screen real estate. However, it does make this phone now a two-handed phone, especially if you have any intention of using that new dynamic island at the top. And while you don't use it all the time, the odd time that you do, it is annoying to have to use a second hand or do some hand gymnastics in order to get up there. Opposed to the 15 Pro, which I can reach top to bottom without even trying every single time. So whether it's using the dynamic island or reaching the new action button on the side, it's very, very easy to use and just way more practical at the end of the day. Now, reason number 2 why people choose between one or the other has to do with the battery life. And looking at the 15 Pro Max, it is the larger device and therefore has a larger battery. So as you would expect, it does have better battery life than the 15 Pro. And to give you some insights as to how I actually use these phones, I work 12-hour shifts, and the only time that I charge my phone is either on the way to work or coming back from work. So throughout that 12 hours in between, I typically never charge my phone, and I've never had an issue where I needed to charge it up during the day because it was about to hit 0 or even came anywhere close to that on either phone. Typically by the end of the day when I'm driving home with the iPhone 15 Pro, I'll have about 25% battery left. I would still charge it up on the way home. Do you need to? No. So technically this would be almost a 2-day phone, if you will. But if you're buying one of these phones strictly for battery life, I would highly recommend getting either the 15 Plus or the 14 Plus. For whatever reason, the 15 Pro Max and even last year's 14 Pro Max has nothing on the battery of the 13 Pro Max. So if your major concern is battery life and you want to spend that extra $200 because you think that the 15 Pro Max is going to give you some extraordinary battery life, then I'm telling you that's not the case. You might as well still stick with the 15 Pro. And while I'm not the biggest power user and I don't sit there and talk about screen on time, I just use my phone as practically as possible. So I'm constantly editing reels and TikToks using CapCut. I'm constantly editing photos in Lightroom, and then I do the regular stuff as well. So watching videos, scrolling through social media. And like I said, I've never had an issue with either of these two phones. Now moving on to reason number 3, and the main physical difference between these two devices is the camera module. According to Apple, the only phone that was capable of receiving this year's new 5x telephoto lens was the 15 Pro Max, again because of its bigger size. Now whether that's the truth or just a reason to upsell people, I don't know. But yeah, the 15 Pro Max is the only phone that's going to give you that new 5x telephoto, as that crazy zoom you've been seeing on social media. And I mean, after using it, it's okay. Like it's really nothing special. The only times that I've actually used it were either I'm trying to show somebody how cool it is, or I made a video on social media about how cool it was. I don't sit there and constantly zoom in on things to take photos or zoom in on things to take videos. A lot of people will probably disagree with me, but at this point, it's really just a gimmick. Like if you're buying one of the new Samsung phones just because you want to take photos of the moon, then you're probably better off buying a cheaper phone. Aside from those very few moments, I do not touch that 5x lens at all. And maybe it's just because I'm a creature of habit and I'm used to not having it in the first place. I'm super fine shooting at 0.5, 1, or 3x. In addition to that, the 1x focal length also has 3 more focal lengths built into it. So if you're looking for a variety of lengths or zooms, if you will, then you already have those built in on the 15 Pro. You don't need to go up to the 15 Pro Max for that super zoom, because I guarantee you're not going to use it unless you're someone that already takes those kind of photos or videos. So aside from those two things, these two phones are pretty much exactly the same. Sure, this comes with a few extra features, but they're really not features that you're gonna need or that are deal breakers. When it comes to the 15 Pro, it is the perfect size in your hand. It's comfortable to hold. The videos and the photos look just as good as the videos and photos coming out of the 15 Pro Max. And so honestly, what I would say is to grab the 15 Pro, and with the money that you're saving, I would definitely upgrade the internal storage. And the reason why I say that is because one of Apple's newest features this year on these new phones is the ability to shoot Apple ProRes log. Like, no word of a lie, on a 1 TB device, if I wanted to shoot 4K ProRes log right now, the max amount of time that I could shoot for is about 30 minutes before the entire hard drive was full. But even still, if your intention is not to shoot Apple ProRes log, you're still probably going to be using 4K, shooting at 24, 30, or 60 frames per second. And those two also take up a lot of space. But if you saved up enough money to grab yourself the Pro Max, it won't hurt your pockets too much to put that same money into increasing the internal storage. And that, coupled with iCloud, if you're one of those people, would mean that you're actually going to be able to use this phone for the full 7 years that Apple intends to support it. So it's a difficult choice. I know they're always throwing things in to kind of blur the line between these two devices, but even as someone that has a very large hand and has the opportunity to use either of these two phones, I would definitely go with the 15 Pro. If you need any more info or have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. Much love as always, throwing up two of them, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.